Go die, motherfucker. The words hit Catherine Harrington like shrapnel. Staff Sergeant Marcus Drake's spit landed on her cheek. His hand closed around her throat. 23 people watched. Nobody moved. Nobody knew that the 54-year-old cleaning lady he was choking had spent 29 years as a Navy SEAL. Nobody knew she had killed 47 men in 11 countries. Nobody knew that the last person who grabbed her throat like this was buried in an unmarked grave in Syria. Drake had no idea he was 3 seconds from meeting God. If you want to see what happens next, subscribe to our channel and stay until the end. Comment your city below so I can see how far this story travels. The fluorescent lights hummed. 5:30 in the morning. The equipment bay smelled like gun oil and sweat, and the particular kind of fear that young men carried when they knew their bodies would be broken before breakfast. Catherine Harrington pushed her cleaning cart through the corridor. The wheels squeaked. Her gray uniform hung loose on a frame that looked unremarkable. 54 years old, auburn hair streaked with silver pulled back in a simple ponytail, reading glasses hanging from a chain around her neck, wedding ring on her left hand, though the husband who'd given it to her had been dead for 11 years. She looked like somebody's grandmother. She looked like nobody at all. Staff Sergeant Marcus Drake blocked her path. He was drunk. Still drunk from the night before. His breath could have stripped paint off a submarine hull. "Where do you think you're going?" Catherine stopped her cart. "Cleaning the bay, Staff Sergeant. Same as every morning." "Not today." Drake stepped closer. His chest nearly touched her face. He was 6'2", 220 pounds of muscle and rage and something broken that he'd never learned to fix. "Not today. Not ever again. I have a schedule to keep." "I don't give a damn about your schedule." Drake's voice rose. Other Marines were stopping now, looking, some uncomfortable, some entertained, none willing to intervene. "You know what I give a damn about. I give a damn about the fact that every time I turn around, there's another woman where a woman doesn't belong. Another diversity hire taking a job from someone who actually earned it." Catherine said nothing. Her hands rested on the cart handle, loose, relaxed, a position that looked passive but allowed her to move in any direction within a quarter second. She had learned that position in a basement in Mosul while waiting for an extraction that was 47 minutes late. Nothing to say. Drake leaned down until his face was inches from hers. Nothing to say, cleaning lady. No smart response, no complaint to HR. "I'm just trying to do my job, Staff Sergeant." "Your job," Drake laughed. The sound had no humor in it. "Your job is pretending to work while taking government money. Your job is existing in a space you didn't earn. Your job is making me sick every time I have to look at you." A young sailor, Petty Officer 3rd Class Ryan Chen, stepped forward from the crowd. 24 years old, SEAL trainee, 6 months into the hardest training program in the military. "Staff Sergeant, maybe we should—" "Shut your mouth, trainee." Drake didn't look at him. His eyes stayed fixed on Catherine. "Unless you want to find out what happens to people who interrupt me." Chen stopped, his fists clenched at his sides. But he was a trainee and Drake was a staff sergeant, and the military ran on rank the way cars ran on gasoline. "That's what I thought." Drake turned back to Catherine. "You see that even your defenders are cowards. Nobody's going to save you. Nobody cares about you. You're nothing. You're less than nothing." Catherine's left hand moved unconsciously to her ribs, to the scar tissue that lived there like a permanent reminder. Kandahar, 2009. The night Master Chief Daniel Reyes died with his head in her lap while she pressed both hands against a wound that wouldn't stop bleeding no matter how much gauze she packed into it. "Make it count, Katie. Every day after this. Make it count." Those were his last words. The last words of the man who had trained her, protected her, believed in her when the entire military establishment said women couldn't do what she was doing. Drake had no idea that the woman he was threatening had carried Ghost Reyes 3 kilometers through enemy territory with 2 broken ribs and a bullet graze along her left thigh. Had no idea she'd killed 11 insurgents on that extraction. Had no idea she'd received a medal for that mission that she wasn't allowed to wear, wasn't allowed to discuss, wasn't allowed to acknowledge existed. "I asked you a question, cleaning lady." Catherine looked up at him. Her eyes were pale blue, the color of glacier ice, and for just a moment something flickered behind them. Something cold, something ancient, something that had seen things Marcus Drake couldn't imagine in his worst nightmares. "You didn't ask me a question, Staff Sergeant. You made a series of statements. There's a difference." Drake's face reddened. "Are you correcting me?" "I'm clarifying a factual inaccuracy." "You're what?" Drake stepped even closer. Their bodies were nearly touching now. The crowd had grown. 20, maybe 25 people watching. Nobody moving to help. "You're clarifying a factual inaccuracy. Listen to yourself. Who do you think you are?" Catherine's voice stayed level, calm. The way she'd learned to speak during hostage negotiations in Somalia. The way she'd learned to speak when any emotion could get people killed. "I'm Catherine Harrington. I clean buildings. That's all you need to know." "That's where you're wrong." Drake grabbed her shoulder. His fingers dug into flesh and muscle and the old surgery scar from when a bullet had shattered her collarbone in Afghanistan. "I need to know why you're still here. I need to know why you haven't taken the hint. I need to know why you keep showing up every morning like you belong here." Chen stepped forward again. "Staff Sergeant, I told you to shut up." Drake spun toward him, releasing Catherine's shoulder. "One more word and I'll end your career before it starts. You understand me? One more word." Chen's jaw tightened, but he stopped. Drake turned back to Catherine. His eyes were wild now. Whatever control he'd been maintaining was slipping away, dissolving in alcohol and rage and years of resentment that had no legitimate target. "You want to know what I think?" He grabbed her again, both hands on her shoulders this time, shaking her. "I think you should do the world a favor. I think you should disappear. I think you should go die, motherfucker." The words hung in the air like a grenade with the pin pulled. Catherine Harrington looked at Staff Sergeant Marcus Drake. She looked at his bloodshot eyes and his trembling hands and his pathetic, impotent fury. She looked at a man who had never faced real danger in his life and mistook volume for strength. She thought about what she could do to him. She thought about the 47 techniques Ghost Reyes had taught her for incapacitating an aggressive opponent without leaving visible marks. She thought about the fact that she could have him unconscious in 4 seconds and dead in 7, and nobody in this room would have time to react. Instead, she spoke quietly. "Staff Sergeant, I think you should remove your hands from my person." "Or what?" Drake laughed. "What are you going to do, cleaning lady? File a complaint? Call your supervisor? Cry?" "No." Catherine's voice dropped even lower, so quiet that only Drake could hear her. "I'm going to give you exactly one chance to walk away. One chance to go home, sober up, and reconsider the choices that led you to this moment. That's more than most people get. I suggest you take it." Something in her tone made Drake hesitate. Something in those glacier blue eyes that didn't match the gray uniform and the reading glasses and the cleaning cart. But alcohol and ego were stronger than instinct. "One chance," he spat in her face. The saliva ran down her cheek like a tear. "Here's your one chance, cleaning lady. Here's your one chance to—" His hand closed around her throat. Catherine didn't move, didn't struggle, didn't show any reaction at all. She simply looked at him and waited. The crowd was frozen. 25 people watching a Marine choke a 54-year-old cleaning lady and nobody doing anything about it because rank was rank and power was power, and nobody wanted to be the one who interfered. Chen was shaking, his entire body trembling with the effort of staying still. Every instinct screaming at him to move, to help, to do something. But Drake's threat echoed in his head. Career over before it started. Everything he'd worked for, everything he'd sacrificed, gone in an instant. He looked at Catherine, and for just a moment he could have sworn she looked back at him with something like reassurance. Something that said, "Don't worry. I've got this. But that was impossible. She was a cleaning lady. She was 54 years old. She was being choked by a man nearly twice her size. What could she possibly have? Catherine counted heartbeats. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Drake's grip tightened. Not enough to cut off her air completely. He wasn't trying to kill her, just intimidate her, but enough to leave bruises, enough to hurt. She'd been hurt worse. So much worse. She'd been hurt in a bunker in Syria when an explosion collapsed the ceiling, and she'd spent 4 hours digging herself out with 2 broken fingers and a concussion. She'd been hurt in a helicopter crash in the Hindu Kush that killed 3 team members and left her with a spinal fracture that took 8 months to heal. She'd been hurt in ways that this man couldn't imagine, in places that didn't exist on any map, by enemies who made Marcus Drake look like an angry child throwing a tantrum. His grip was nothing. His rage was nothing. He was nothing. But she couldn't show him that. Couldn't show anyone. Her cover depended on being invisible, unremarkable, the woman nobody saw. So she let him choke her, let him feel powerful, let him think he was winning, and she waited. The phone in her pocket buzzed. Once, twice, 3 times. She knew that pattern, knew what it meant. Someone was calling her back to a life she'd left behind 12 years ago. Someone with the authority to reach through her carefully constructed anonymity and pull her back into the darkness. Drake didn't notice. He was too focused on his performance, too drunk on his own fury to pay attention to anything but the fear he expected to see in her eyes. The fear that wasn't there. You feel that? He squeezed harder. You feel what it's like to be helpless, to be nothing. That's what you are. That's what you've always been. Nothing. Nobody. A waste of space and air. And Marcus. A new voice cut through the equipment bay. Deep. Authoritative. Carrying the weight of decades of command. Drake's hand loosened slightly. His head turned. Commander James Westbrook stood in the doorway. 58 years old. Silver hair cropped close to his skull. Eyes that had seen 3 wars and countless operations that would never be acknowledged. He was officially a civilian consultant now. Unofficially, he was something far more complicated. Commander? Drake straightened slightly, but didn't release Catherine's throat. This doesn't concern you. Everything that happens on this base concerns me, Staff Sergeant. Westbrook walked forward slowly, each step measured, deliberate. The walk of a man who had never needed to hurry because he'd never encountered a situation he couldn't control. But, particularly, anything involving my personnel. Your personnel? Drake's confusion was visible. She's a cleaning lady. She works for facilities management. She doesn't... Take your hand off her throat, Staff Sergeant. Now! Something in Westbrook's voice made Drake obey. His fingers uncurled. He stepped back. His face was red, his breath coming fast, his entire body vibrating with adrenaline and alcohol and the sudden uncertainty of a man who had lost control of a situation he thought he dominated. Catherine rubbed her throat. Red marks were already forming. They'd be bruises by afternoon. Kate. Westbrook looked at her. Something passed between them. Recognition, concern. Communication that happened below the surface where nobody else could see. You all right? Fine, Commander. Her voice was slightly hoarse. Just a misunderstanding. Didn't look like a misunderstanding to me. Westbrook turned to Drake. Staff Sergeant, you're relieved of duty pending investigation. Report to the base commander's office at 0800. Don't be late. Sir, with respect. That wasn't a request. That wasn't a suggestion. That was an order from a superior officer. Are we going to have a problem, Staff Sergeant? Drake's jaw worked. His hands clenched and unclenched. For a moment it looked like he might say something, might push back, might escalate, might do something that would destroy whatever remained of his career. Then he turned and walked out of the equipment bay without another word. The crowd began to disperse. Conversations resumed. The incident was already becoming a story that would spread through the base by lunch. The drunk Marine who threatened the cleaning lady, the commander who intervened, the strange tension that nobody quite understood. Westbrook waited until they were relatively alone. Then he spoke quietly. "We need to talk. My office. 1 hour." "Commander, I'm not—" "That wasn't a request either, Captain." Catherine's heart stopped. He'd used her rank, her real rank. The rank that wasn't supposed to exist anymore. The rank that had been erased from every database, every personnel file, every record that could be accessed by normal channels. 1 hour, Kate. Westbrook's eyes held hers. "It's time." He walked away. Catherine stood alone in the equipment bay, her hand unconsciously moving to her throat where Drake's fingers had been, then lower to her ribs where the scar from Kandahar still ached when the weather changed. Her phone buzzed again. She pulled it out, looked at the message from a blocked number. "Phantom depth activated. 72 hours. Report to Commander Westbrook immediately." This is not a drill. 12 years of silence. 12 years of invisibility. 12 years of being nobody. And now, in the span of 10 minutes, everything had changed. Chen found her in the motor pool 30 minutes later. She was sitting on an overturned crate, staring at nothing, her hands wrapped around a cup of coffee that had gone cold. "Ma'am?" He approached carefully, the way you'd approach a wounded animal. "Are you okay?" Catherine looked up. Her eyes refocused slowly, like someone coming back from a great distance. "I'm fine, Petty Officer. Thank you for asking." "I'm sorry I didn't—" He stopped. Started again. "I should have done something. Should have stepped in. Should have—" "You would have destroyed your career." Her voice was matter-of-fact. No judgment. No accusation. 6 months into SEAL training, and you would have thrown it all away over a drunk Marine and a cleaning lady. That wouldn't have been brave. That would have been stupid. But it would have been right. Catherine looked at him more closely then. Really looked the way she looked at new operators when she was trying to figure out if they had what it took to survive the darkness. "What's your name, Petty Officer?" "Chen, ma'am. Ryan Chen." "How long have you been in training?" 6 months. Made it through Hell Week last month. "And you're still standing." A small smile flickered across her face. "That's something." "Can I ask you something, ma'am?" "You can ask. I might not answer." Chen hesitated. He'd been thinking about this for weeks now, ever since he'd started noticing things that didn't add up. Things about the cleaning lady that seemed wrong for a cleaning lady. "Your hands," he said finally. "The calluses. They're not right." Catherine raised an eyebrow but said nothing. "I've been watching you." He rushed on before she could respond. Not in a weird way. Just noticing things. The way you move through a room. The way you always position yourself with sight lines to the exits. The way you cleared that jammed door during the lockdown drill. That was a tactical breach technique. Level 3. I've seen instructors do it the exact same way. I've been cleaning this base for 4 years. You learn things. And the way you talk to stressed trainees. Same cadence as the combat instructors. Same calm. Same authority. I read a lot. Ma'am. Chen's voice dropped. I've been around operators my whole life. My father was a SEAL. My grandfather was a frogman in Vietnam. I know what it looks like. I know what it sounds like. And whatever you are, you're not a cleaning lady. Catherine was quiet for a long moment. The coffee cup grew colder in her hands. You're observant, Petty Officer Chen. That'll serve you well if you make it through training. If. It's always if. Nothing is guaranteed in this life. You didn't answer my question. You didn't ask a question. You made a series of observations. Her smile was thin, humorless. There's a difference. She stood, set the coffee cup on the crate, turned to walk away. Ma'am, Chen called after her. That commander, Westbrook. He called you captain. Catherine stopped. Her back was to him. Her shoulders tensed almost imperceptibly. I heard him, Chen continued. He said captain. But you're a civilian. Facilities management. Cleaning staff. Why would a retired SEAL Team 6 commander call a cleaning lady captain? Catherine turned her head, just enough to look at him over her shoulder. Sometimes, Petty Officer Chen, the answer to a question is more dangerous than the question itself. You should think carefully about whether you really want to know. I want to know. Why? Because I'm tired of pretending I don't see what's right in front of me. Because that man put his hands on you and I did nothing. Because somewhere along the way, I learned to look the other way when things didn't make sense. And I don't want to be that person anymore. Catherine faced him fully then. Her eyes had changed. The grandmother was gone. The cleaning lady was gone. What looked back at Ryan Chen was something harder, colder, more alive than anything he'd seen outside of combat footage. My name, she said slowly, is Captain Catherine Harrington, 29 years Naval Special Warfare. Most of what I've done doesn't exist in any database you'll ever access. The people I've killed are buried in places that don't have names. The missions I've run are classified at levels that require presidential authorization to even acknowledge. I've been shot 4 times, stabbed twice, blown up 3 times, and drowned once in an enemy interrogation facility in Syria. I'm 54 years old. I have titanium pins in my left shoulder, 2 fused vertebrae in my lower back, and exactly 11 scars from wounds that should have killed me. For the last 12 years, I've been a ghost. Nobody. Invisible. Pushing a cleaning cart through buildings where people like you train for the life I already lived. She paused. Let the words settle. Is that what you wanted to know, Petty Officer Chen? Chen's mouth was open. His brain was trying to process information that didn't fit any framework he had for understanding the world. I don't. No. Catherine's voice softened slightly. You don't. Nobody does. That's the point. But why here? Why this? Because I was tired. Because I'd lost everyone I cared about. Because a man I loved like a father died in my arms and told me to make it count. And I didn't know what that meant for a very long time. And now... Catherine's phone buzzed again. She glanced at it. Her jaw tightened. And now, she said quietly, it seems I have one more mission to run. What kind of mission? She was already walking away. Her posture had changed. The shuffle was gone. Her steps were precise, economical, the movement of someone who had learned to cover ground efficiently because wasted motion could get you killed. The kind, she said without looking back, that nobody will ever know happened. Commander Westbrook's office was small and sparse. A desk, 2 chairs, a window that looked out over the training grounds where young men were currently being broken down so they could be rebuilt into something stronger. Catherine closed the door behind her, turned the lock, checked the room with eyes that cataloged every detail in under 3 seconds. No listening devices, no cameras. Clean. You're still thorough. Westbrook nodded approvingly. Good. You'll need to be. I'm retired James, have been for 12 years. Whatever this is. Sit down, Kate. She sat. Old habits died hard. When a commanding officer told you to sit, you sat. Westbrook opened a folder. Inside were photographs, surveillance shots taken from distance, men in uniform, women in shadow, vehicles moving through checkpoints that should have been secure. Phantom Depth, he said. Human trafficking network operating inside 3 military installations. They've been moving victims through legitimate transport channels for at least 18 months. We only caught it 6 weeks ago when one of the victims escaped and contacted a journalist. Catherine looked at the photographs. Her expression didn't change, but something behind her eyes went dark. How many victims? We've confirmed 14 currently in the pipeline. Estimated total over 18 months. We don't know. Could be 50. Could be 200. Who's running it? Westbrook slid another photograph across the desk. A woman in her late 40s. Lieutenant Colonel's insignia. Hard eyes. Professional smile. Patricia Volkov. Logistics officer. Impeccable record. Uses military transport systems to move victims disguised as contractor personnel. She's got people inside customs, inside transport, inside command structure. We don't know how deep it goes. And you want me to find out. I want you to stop her. Westbrook's voice was flat. 72 hours from now, those 14 victims are being moved across the border. After that, they're gone, disappeared into a network that spans 3 continents. We'll never find them. Catherine stared at the photograph of Patricia Volkov, a fellow service member, someone who had sworn the same oath she had, someone who had decided that oath meant nothing. Why me? You have active operators, NCIS, FBI, people with resources back up official sanction. Because Volkov knows we're looking. She's gone to ground, changed protocols, accelerated timelines. Anyone who approaches through official channels will be spotted and burned before they get close. And a cleaning lady won't be spotted. A cleaning lady is invisible. Westbrook leaned forward. Kate, I know what I'm asking. I know you left this life for good reasons. I know what it cost you. But those 14 people, women, children, they don't have anyone else. Volkov has spent 18 months proving that official channels don't work. We need someone who operates outside official channels, someone who doesn't exist. Catherine thought about Ghost Reyes, about his last words, about the years she'd spent trying to understand what make it count actually meant. Was this it? One more mission, one more dance with the darkness she'd left behind. 14 lives. Women, children, people who had been betrayed by the very institution that was supposed to protect them. She looked at the photograph again. I'll need access, equipment, intelligence. You'll have it. And when it's done, you go back to being invisible. Nobody ever knows you were involved. Catherine nodded slowly. Then she picked up the photograph of Patricia Volkov and studied it with the cold precision of a woman who had spent 29 years learning to identify threats. 72 hours. 72 hours. Then we'd better get started. Drake was waiting for her outside the motor pool. Sober now, or at least more sober. His face was different, harder, more focused, stripped of the theatrical rage from that morning. Cleaning lady. Catherine stopped. Her hand didn't move toward her ribs this time. It moved toward the small of her back, where a knife would have been, if she were still carrying. Staff Sergeant, I thought you were relieved of duty. I was. He stepped closer. Not aggressive this time. Something else. Calculating. But I've been thinking. About this morning. About Westbrook. About how a civilian consultant from nowhere suddenly shows up and gives orders like he owns the place. Commanders give orders. It's what they do. Civilian consultants don't give orders. They advise. Drake's eyes narrowed. And they definitely don't call cleaning ladies captain. Catherine's blood cooled. Her heart rate dropped. The physiological responses of someone preparing for a threat. I don't know what you think you heard. I know what I heard, and I know what I saw. Drake stepped even closer, close enough that she could smell the mouthwash he'd used to cover the alcohol. I saw you standing there while I choked you. Not fighting, not struggling, just waiting, like you knew exactly how it was going to end. I was scared. No. Drake shook his head. No, you weren't. Scared people struggle. Scared people cry. Scared people beg. You just watched. Like I was a bug and you were deciding whether or not to step on me. Catherine said nothing. What are you, Catherine Harrington, really? She met his eyes. Held them. I'm a cleaning lady staff sergeant. That's all you need to know. And if I decide I need to know more, then I suggest you ask Commander Westbrook. He seems to have all the answers. She walked past him, didn't look back, but she heard his voice follow her across the parking lot. This isn't over, cleaning lady. Whatever you're hiding, I'm going to find it. And when I do, everyone's going to know what you really are. Catherine kept walking. Her phone buzzed again. Another message from the blocked number. Intelligence packet ready. Volkov has accelerated timeline. 48 hours, not 72. Meet point alpha, 2200 hours, 48 hours, not 72. Everything was moving faster. She thought about Drake, about his threat, about the very real possibility that his investigation would blow her cover before she could complete the mission. She thought about the 14 victims who didn't have time for complications. She thought about Ghost Reyes dying in her arms, telling her to make it count. "I'm trying, Danny," she whispered to the evening air. "I'm still trying." And then, Captain Catherine Harrington, ghost legend cleaning lady, last hope for 14 people who would never know her name, walked into the gathering darkness to do what she had always done, the impossible. The warehouse at Point Alpha smelled like diesel and rust and something else. Something that reminded Catherine of the detention facilities in Syria where they kept people who were never supposed to be found. Westbrook was already there. So was someone else. Kate. Westbrook nodded toward the figure standing in the shadows. "You remember Bishop?" The man stepped forward. 62 years old. Built like a concrete pillar. Face that looked like it had been carved from granite and then weathered by decades of sand and sun and secrets. Admiral Jonathan Pierce, call sign Bishop. The man who had recruited her 29 years ago. The man who had signed off on every classified operation she'd ever run. The man who had personally delivered the news when Ghost Reyes died. Captain Harrington. His voice was gravel and smoke. "You look good for a ghost." "I am a ghost, Admiral. That was the arrangement." "Arrangements change." He handed her a tablet. The screen glowed with surveillance footage, transport manifests, communication intercepts. Volkov moved up her timeline because she knows we're close. Those 14 victims are being loaded onto military transport in 43 hours. Once they're across the border, we lose them forever. Catherine scrolled through the intelligence. Names, faces, ages. The youngest was 11 years old. Her stomach turned, but her face showed nothing. "What's my operational authority?" "Unlimited." Bishop's eyes held hers. "Whatever you need, whatever it takes. Just bring them home." "And Volkov, alive if possible, dead if necessary. Either way, she doesn't walk away from this." Catherine looked at the photograph of Patricia Volkov again. Lieutenant Colonel, logistics officer, woman who had betrayed everything the uniform was supposed to mean. "I'll need building access, transport schedules, personnel files for everyone Volkov works with." "Already prepared." Westbrook handed her a key card. "This gets you into every building on base. The access logs will show you as a maintenance supervisor doing routine inspections. And if someone checks, they won't. The system's been modified." Catherine pocketed the keycard. Her mind was already running scenarios, calculating approaches, identifying vulnerabilities. "There's something else." Bishop's voice dropped. "Volkov has help inside the Joint Forces Command. Someone high up. We don't know who. So I'm walking into an operation where I don't know who I can trust." "You're walking into an operation where you can't trust anyone." Bishop's face was grim. "Except Westbrook and me. That's it." Catherine almost laughed. Almost. "Just like the old days, then." "Just like the old days." Bishop put his hand on her shoulder. The gesture was surprisingly gentle for a man who had ordered more kill operations than most people could imagine. "Kate, I know what we're asking. I know what this costs. But those children, don't." Her voice sharpened. "Don't tell me about the children. I've seen the files. I know what happens to them. You don't need to motivate me, Admiral. Just give me the intelligence and get out of my way." Bishop nodded slowly, removed his hand. Still the same Kate. "No." She turned toward the door. "The Kate you knew died in Kandahar. This is what's left." She walked out into the night. Behind her, she heard Westbrook's voice, quiet but clear. "She's not wrong, you know, about what Kandahar cost her." "I know." Bishop's response was even quieter. "That's why I prayed she'd say no, and that's why I knew she wouldn't." Catherine kept walking. She heard every word. She didn't look back. Chen was waiting for her at the motor pool. He shouldn't have been there. It was past midnight. Training started at 0500. Every SEAL candidate knew that sleep was more precious than gold during Hell Week recovery. But there he was, standing beside her cleaning cart like a guard dog who didn't know what he was guarding. "Petty Officer Chen, Catherine stopped 3 feet from him. You should be in your rack. Couldn't sleep. That's not my problem. No. Chen stepped forward. But whatever you're doing, I want in. Catherine studied him. 24 years old, idealistic, determined. Exactly the kind of young operator who got himself killed trying to be a hero. You don't know what I'm doing. I know it's connected to what happened this morning. I know Commander Westbrook is involved. I know you're not a cleaning lady. He paused. And I know that if you're going up against something dangerous, you might need backup. I don't need backup. I've been doing this longer than you've been alive. Then why do you look scared? The question hit her like a slap. Catherine Harrington didn't get scared. Hadn't been scared since Kandahar. Had burned that emotion out of herself along with everything else that could get her killed. But Chen was right. She was scared. Not of the mission, not of Volkov, not of dying. She was scared of what she might become if she went back into the darkness. Scared of what it would cost to be Captain Harrington again, after 12 years of being nobody. I'm not scared, petty officer. Yes, you are. Chen's voice was gentle, not accusatory, understanding. I've seen that look before. My father had it every time he came back from deployment. The look of someone who's been somewhere they never want to go again, and knows they have to go back anyway. Catherine was silent for a long moment. Then she made a decision. If I tell you what's happening, you become part of it. There's no walking away, no pretending you didn't know. You'll be putting your career at risk, maybe your life. I understand. Do you really? She stepped closer. I'm not talking about training exercises, Chen. I'm not talking about Hell Week or cold water or sleep deprivation. I'm talking about looking another human being in the eyes and deciding whether they live or die. I'm talking about carrying secrets that will eat you alive if you let them. I'm talking about becoming someone your family might not recognize when you come home, if you come home. Chen didn't flinch. I joined the teams because I wanted to make a difference. Not for the glory, not for the trident. Because there are people in this world who need help, and I wanted to be someone who could give it. He paused. Whatever you're doing, it's that kind of work. I can feel it. Catherine looked at him. Really looked. And she saw herself. 29 years ago. Standing in front of a recruiter with the same determination, the same naive belief that courage could conquer anything. She'd learned the truth since then. Courage couldn't conquer anything. Courage got people killed. What kept you alive was competence, preparation, and the willingness to do things that would haunt you forever. But sometimes, just sometimes, courage was still worth something. Human trafficking, she said quietly. There's a network operating on this base. 14 victims being moved in 43 hours. The organizer is a lieutenant colonel named Volkov. She's got help from someone high up in command. We don't know who. Chen's face went pale, then hard. What do you need me to do? For now, nothing. Go back to your rack. Get some sleep. Train like nothing's happening. Catherine pulled the keycard from her pocket. But if I need eyes somewhere I can't be, or ears on a conversation I can't hear, I'll find you. And if Drake causes problems, Catherine's jaw tightened at the name. Drake is my problem. Not yours. He's looking into you. He cornered one of the admin clerks this afternoon asking about your personnel file, your background, how you got hired. Catherine processed this. Drake was dangerous, but not for the reasons he thought. If his investigation got too close to the truth, Volkov's people might notice, might decide to eliminate a potential security breach. Drake could get himself killed without ever knowing why. Part of her thought that might solve a problem. The rest of her remembered what Ghost Reyes had taught her about the difference between enemies and obstacles. I'll handle Drake. How? By giving him exactly what he's looking for. Catherine smiled, but there was no warmth in it. Just enough truth to satisfy his curiosity. Just enough misdirection to keep him away from what matters. Chen nodded slowly. You've done this before. I've done everything before, petty officer. She turned toward the darkness. That's the problem. Catherine found Drake in the NCO club at 0200. He was drinking again or still nursing a whiskey at the bar while the few other patrons gave him a wide berth. She sat down next to him. Staff Sergeant. Drake's head turned, his eyes widened, then narrowed. Cleaning lady. You've got nerve showing your face around me. I have a lot of things, Catherine signaled the bartender. Coffee. Black. I could call the MPs right now, report you for harassment. You could, but you won't. The coffee arrived. Catherine wrapped her hands around the cup but didn't drink. Because you want answers more than you want revenge. That's what's keeping you up at night, not anger, curiosity. Drake was silent. His jaw worked. What are you? I told you. I'm a cleaning lady. Nobody spends that kind of money hiding a cleaning lady's background. Drake leaned closer. His breath was sour. I pulled your personnel file. 4 years of employment records, references, background check. All of it clean. Too clean. The kind of clean that only happens when someone's been scrubbed. You have an active imagination. I have 20 years of military experience. Drake's voice dropped. I know what a cover looks like. I know what a legend feels like. And you cleaning lady feel like something the government doesn't want people to know about. Catherine sipped her coffee, considered her options. She could deny everything, keep stonewalling, hope Drake got bored or distracted, but that wasn't going to work. Drake was a dog with a bone. He'd keep digging until he found something, and if he found the wrong thing, if he got too close to Volkov's operation, he'd end up dead and possibly take the mission with him. The only way to control him was to redirect him. You want the truth, Staff Sergeant? Drake's eyes sharpened. Yeah, I want the truth. Fine. Catherine set down her coffee. You're right. I'm not a cleaning lady. I'm former military. Retired out of a unit that doesn't officially exist. I came here because I wanted to disappear, and pushing a cleaning cart was the best way to do that. Drake processed this. His expression shifted surprise, then suspicion, then something that might have been grudging respect. What unit? The kind that doesn't get talked about in NCO clubs. Catherine held his gaze. The kind that does things the regular military can't do. The kind that leaves scars no one can see. Special operations. Something like that. Drake was quiet for a long moment. The whiskey sat untouched in front of him. Why are you telling me this? Because you're not going to stop digging. And if you dig in the wrong direction, you're going to get yourself killed. Catherine leaned closer. There are things happening on this base, Staff Sergeant. Things that are bigger than your ego or my cover story. Things that involve people who will put a bullet in your head and make it look like a training accident. What kind of things, the kind I can't tell you about? Catherine stood. But here's what I can tell you. Stay away from Lieutenant Colonel Volkov. Stay away from the logistics building. Stay away from anything involving transport manifests or contractor personnel. If you see something that doesn't make sense, pretend you didn't see it. Go home, sleep, wake up, do your job, and forget you ever met me. Drake's face had gone pale. Volkov. What does Volkov have to do with... Nothing. Catherine's voice was sharp. Volkov has nothing to do with anything. You never heard that name. You never heard me say it. Do you understand? I don't understand anything. Good. Understanding gets people killed. Catherine dropped money on the bar for her coffee. This conversation never happened, Staff Sergeant. You never saw me here. You went home, slept off the whiskey, and woke up tomorrow with nothing but a hangover and a vague memory of a strange dream. She walked toward the door. Harrington. She stopped. That morning, in the equipment bay, Drake's voice was different now, smaller. I was out of line, way out of line. I was drunk and angry, and I took it out on someone who didn't deserve it. Catherine didn't turn around. Is that an apology? It's an acknowledgement. Drake paused. Apologies don't mean much without action to back them up. No. Catherine opened the door. They don't. She left him sitting alone at the bar, staring at a whiskey he would never finish, thinking thoughts that would keep him awake until dawn. It wasn't forgiveness. It wasn't even close. But it was a start. The intelligence packet from Bishop contained more than surveillance footage. It contained names. 6 military personnel connected to Volkov's operation. All logistics. all with access to transport systems, all with bank accounts that showed deposits from offshore sources. But there was a seventh name, redacted, blacked out, protected by a classification level that even Bishop couldn't access. Someone high up, someone powerful enough to make their identity disappear from an admiral's intelligence briefing. Catherine stared at the redacted name for a long time. Whoever this was, they were the key. Volkov was the organizer, but she couldn't operate without protection from above. Someone was shielding her, covering her tracks, making problems disappear. Find the protector and the whole network would collapse. But how do you find someone who doesn't exist? Catherine thought about this for hours, ran scenarios, analyzed patterns, applied decades of operational experience to a puzzle that seemed to have no solution. Then she thought about Ghost Reyes. When you can't find the answer in the data, Katie find it in the people. Data lies, people leak. Volkov had 6 known associates, 6 people who knew things they shouldn't know, 6 potential weak points. Catherine picked up her phone. Chen, I need you to do something for me. Name it. There's a sergeant in logistics. Thomas Wright. Works the night shift on the transport desk. I need you to become his best friend. Silence on the other end. You want me to run an intelligence operation. I want you to buy a fellow service member a drink and listen to him talk about his problems. That's not an intelligence operation. That's just being friendly. And if he talks about things he shouldn't, then you remember every word and tell me exactly what he said. Catherine paused. Can you do that, Chen? Yeah. His voice was steady. I can do that. Good. Start tonight. She hung up and turned back to the intelligence packet. 40 hours until the victims were moved. 40 hours to find a ghost inside a machine built to create ghosts. The clock was ticking, and somewhere in the darkness, Catherine Harrington could feel the old instincts waking up. The cold assessment, the tactical precision, the willingness to do whatever it took to complete the mission. She had spent 12 years trying to forget who she was. Now she remembered, and she wasn't sure if that was a good thing or a very, very bad one. The nightmare came at 0400 the way it always did. Kandahar, the L-shaped ambush, Ghost Reyes bleeding out in her arms while she packed gauze into a wound that wouldn't stop flowing. Make it count, Katie. Every day after this, make it count. She woke with his name on her lips and tears on her cheeks and the old scar throbbing like it had never healed. 12 years. 12 years of therapy and medication and meditation and every other tool the VA could offer. It still felt like yesterday. She sat on the edge of her bed, pressed her hands against her face, counted breaths the way Ghost had taught her. In for 4, hold for 7, out for 8. The panic receded. The tears stopped. The scar settled into its familiar ache. She was Captain Catherine Harrington. She had a mission. People were depending on her. The grief could wait. It had waited 12 years. It could wait a few more days. Chen's report came at 0900. Wright talked. More than he should have. Chen's voice was tense through the phone. He mentioned Volkov by name, said she's been running special cargo for the past 18 months, said there's a shipment tonight. Catherine's blood ran cold. Tonight I thought we had 40 hours. So did I. But Wright said the timeline changed again. Something spooked them. They're moving the whole operation. When tonight? 2300. Loading dock 7. Military transport headed for the border. Catherine checked her watch. 14 hours. That was all she had. 14 hours to identify the high-level protector. 14 hours to neutralize Volkov's security. 14 hours to rescue 14 victims who had no idea help was coming. Chen, where are you? Outside the logistics building. I followed Wright after our drink. He went inside 20 minutes ago and hasn't come out. Stay there. Watch for anything unusual, but don't get spotted. If anyone asks, you're waiting for a supply pickup. What are you going to do? Catherine stood. Her body ached, 54 years of damage protesting the demands she was about to make. Whatever I have to. She hung up and reached for the bag she'd packed 12 years ago. the bag she'd sworn she would never need again. Inside tactical clothing, comm equipment, night vision, flex cuffs, and a knife, old, worn. The blade still sharp enough to split hairs. Ghost Reyes had given her that knife the day before he died. For when there's no other option, Katie, use it wisely. She had used it 3 times since then. 3 men who would never hurt anyone again. She hoped tonight wouldn't make it 4, but she was prepared if it did. Catherine Harrington picked up the knife, felt its weight in her hand, remembered the lives it had taken and the lives it had saved. Then she slipped it into her belt and walked out the door. The game had changed. It was time to stop hiding. It was time to hunt. Catherine moved through the base like a shadow wearing skin. The cleaning uniform was gone. In its place, dark tactical clothing, lightweight boots, the kind of gear that whispered instead of announced. She hadn't worn these clothes in 12 years, but they fit like they'd been waiting for her. Her body remembered what her mind had tried to forget. The logistics building was quiet at 1400 hours. Most personnel were at lunch. The skeleton crew that remained was focused on paperwork, not security. Catherine slipped through a service entrance using the keycard Westbrook had provided. The access logs would show a maintenance inspection. Nothing unusual, nothing memorable. She needed to reach Volkov's office, needed to access her computer, needed to find the identity of the 7th name, the protector hiding behind classification levels that even admirals couldn't penetrate. The corridor stretched ahead of her, empty, silent, too silent. Catherine's instincts screamed a warning half a second before the door behind her opened. "Stop right there." She turned, slowly, hands visible. Lieutenant Colonel Patricia Volkov stood 10 feet away. 47 years old, hard eyes, harder smile, and a pistol pointed directly at Catherine's chest. "I was wondering when you'd show up." Volkov's voice was almost conversational. "The cleaning lady who isn't a cleaning lady. The ghost who came back from the dead." Catherine's heart was pounding, but her voice stayed level. "How long have you known?" "Since this morning, when you met with Admiral Pierce at Point Alpha." Volkov stepped closer. The gun never wavered. "You thought that location was secure, sweetheart. I've been running this operation for 18 months. Every safe house, every dead drop, every secret meeting point, I know them all. I've had to. Survival requires intelligence." "Then you know why I'm here." "I know exactly why you're here. The 14 packages scheduled for transport tonight. You want to play hero, save the day, ride off into the sunset feeling good about yourself." Volkov's smile widened. "That's not going to happen." Catherine calculated distances, angles, response times. Volkov was 6 feet away. Too far for a disarm. The pistol was a Beretta M9 15 rounds 1 in the chamber. Volkov's stance was professional, military training. She knew how to shoot. "You could surrender now," Catherine said. "NCIS is already building a case. Admiral Pierce has evidence. Your operation is over whether you kill me or not." "My operation is just beginning," Volkov laughed. The sound had no humor in it. "You think this is about money, about the pathetic fees we collect for moving cargo. This is about something much bigger. Something that's been building for years." "What are you talking about?" "The network, Captain Harrington. That's right, I know your real rank. I know everything about you. 29 years of classified operations, 47 confirmed kills. The woman who dragged Daniel Reyes 3 kilometers through enemy territory with 2 broken ribs." Volkov's eyes gleamed. "You're a legend, and legends are valuable. Very valuable." Catherine's blood went cold. "You're not just trafficking civilians. Civilians are amateur hour. The real money is in talent, military personnel, intelligence officers, people with skills that can be repurposed." Volkov stepped closer. "That's why you're not going to die today, Captain. You're going to disappear. And in 6 months after the reconditioning is complete, you're going to work for people who pay much better than the United States government. You're insane." "I'm practical." Volkov gestured with the gun. "Now, you're going to walk ahead of me, slowly, hands visible. We're going to take a little trip to a facility where your legendary skills will be put to better use." Catherine didn't move. I said, walk. No. Volkov's expression flickered. Surprise, then anger. Do you understand what's happening here? I have a gun pointed at your chest. You have no weapons, no backup, no options. Walk, or I put a bullet in your knee and drag you. You won't shoot me. Try me. You just told me I'm valuable. Valuable enough to reprogram. Valuable enough to sell. Catherine took a step forward, then another. Damaged goods aren't worth as much. A bullet in the knee means reduced mobility, reduced effectiveness, reduced profit. Volkov's gun hand trembled slightly. I can work around a knee injury. Can you work around a dead body? Catherine took another step. Because that's your only other option. Kill me or let me walk away. There's no middle ground. Stop moving. Catherine didn't stop. I said stop. 3 feet between them now. Close enough for Catherine to see the sweat forming on Volkov's forehead. Close enough to smell the fear underneath the bravado. You've never killed anyone, have you, Colonel? Catherine's voice was soft, almost gentle. You've ordered deaths, facilitated them, profited from them. But you've never pulled the trigger yourself, never watched the light leave someone's eyes, never felt that weight settle into your soul. Shut up. I have, 47 times. Catherine took another step. And let me tell you something, Patricia. The first one changes you. The second one breaks something that never heals. By the 10th, you stop feeling anything at all. You become something that looks human but isn't anymore. Something cold, something empty, something that can do things that would make you vomit. 2 feet now. The gun was shaking badly. I am that something, Colonel. I am the thing that happens when you take all the humanity out of a person and replace it with training and trauma and 29 years of darkness. Catherine smiled. It wasn't a pleasant smile. So please, pull the trigger. Give me a reason. Volkov's finger tightened on the trigger, then loosened. The gun lowered half an inch. That was enough. Catherine moved, faster than a 54-year-old woman should be able to move, faster than Volkov could react. Her left hand swept the gun aside, her right hand closed around Volkov's throat. Her knee drove into Volkov's solar plexus with enough force to empty her lungs. The gun clattered to the floor. Volkov went down, gasping eyes bulging. Catherine picked up the Beretta, checked the chamber. 15 rounds plus 1. Full magazine. Here's what's going to happen now, Colonel. She pressed the barrel against Volkov's forehead. You're going to tell me where the victims are being held. You're going to tell me how many guards are protecting them. And you're going to tell me the name of your protector, the 7th person on the list, the one whose identity is classified above top secret. Volkov coughed. Blood flecked her lips. Go to hell. Catherine pulled back the slide. The sound was very loud in the empty corridor. I've been to hell, Patricia. Several times. It's not as bad as people think. Want me to show you? You won't kill me. You need the information. I need the information from someone, not necessarily from you. Catherine pressed harder with the barrel. There are 6 other people in your network. I'm sure at least one of them will be more cooperative. Fear flickered in Volkov's eyes. Real fear this time. The warehouse, she gasped. Loading dock 7. They're being held in a shipping container. Blue with white markings. Guard rotation is 4 on 4 off. 8 total. And your protector? Volkov's jaw clenched. I can't. Can't or won't? Can't. He'll kill me. He'll kill everyone I've ever known. You don't understand what you're dealing with. Then help me understand. He's... Volkov hesitated. Swallowed. He's inside the Joint Forces Command. High up, very high up. He's been running networks like this for 15 years across 3 continents. Human trafficking is just one revenue stream. He moves weapons, intelligence, anything that has value. A name, Patricia. I don't know his real name. Nobody does. We call him the architect. He designed the whole system, the logistics, the cover stories, the protection. Where do I find him? You don't find him. He finds you. Volkov's voice dropped to a whisper. And if he knows you're looking, you're already dead. Catherine processed this. A shadow network within the military. A mastermind operating at the highest levels. Something much bigger than 14 victims in a shipping container. But the victims came first. Everything else could wait. Thank you for your cooperation, Colonel. What are you going to do? What I've always done. Catherine stood. Kept the gun trained on Volkov. Clean up other people's messes. She struck Volkov behind the ear with the pistol grip. Precise. Controlled. Enough force to knock her unconscious, but not enough to cause permanent damage. Volkov slumped to the floor. Catherine checked her pulse. Steady. She'd wake up in an hour with a headache and a lot of explaining to do. The phone in Catherine's pocket buzzed. Chen. Talk to me. We have a problem. Chen's voice was tense. Drake just showed up at the warehouse. He's asking questions about transport manifests. If he gets inside, he'll blow the whole operation and get himself killed. Catherine was already moving. Where is he now? Outside loading dock 7, 2 guards are watching him. They look nervous. I'm on my way. 15 minutes. You don't have 15 minutes. Drake's getting aggressive. He's demanding to see the shipping container. If they open fire, they won't. Not in broad daylight with witnesses. Catherine pushed through a service exit. But if he forces his way in, if he sees the victims, everything changes. The guards will have to eliminate him. Then they'll move the package early. We'll lose them. What do you want me to do? Catherine made a decision. Get to Drake. Tell him you have information about me. Tell him I'm meeting someone at the warehouse tonight. Tell him whatever you need to tell him to get him away from that loading dock. And if he doesn't believe me, then knock him unconscious and drag him away. I don't care how you do it, Chen. Just keep him clear of that container for the next 8 hours. Can you do that? Silence on the other end. Then, yeah, I can do that. Good, move. Catherine ended the call and started running. The warehouse was 20 minutes away by vehicle. She could make it in 12 if she pushed. But arriving exhausted would be a mistake. The operation tonight would require everything she had. She forced herself to slow down. Think tactically. 8 guards, 4 on 4 off. That meant 4 active at any given time. The container was at loading dock 7. Blue with white markings. Victims inside. She needed a plan. A real plan, not just improvisation and violence. Ghost Reyes's voice echoed in her memory. When you're outnumbered, Katie, you don't fight fair. You change the rules. Make them fight on your terms, not theirs. Change the rules. Catherine's mind raced. What rules could she change? What advantages did she have that the guards didn't? She knew the base. They didn't. She had been invisible here for 4 years. They expected a cleaning lady. She had backup Chen Westbrook Bishop. They thought they were operating in secret. And she had something else. Something they couldn't predict. 29 years of experience in doing the impossible. Catherine pulled out her phone again. Admiral, it's Harrington. Kate, report. Volkov is neutralized. The victims are at loading dock 7, blue container, white markings. 8 guards, total, rotating 4 at a time. Timeline has been moved up. They're planning to transport at 2300. That's 11 hours from now. Yes, sir. And we have a complication. Staff Sergeant Drake is sniffing around the warehouse. Chen is handling him, but if he comes back, I'll deal with Drake. Bishop's voice hardened. What do you need for the extraction? 3 things. First, I need the base power grid to go down at exactly 22:45. 15 minutes of darkness. Done. Second, I need a diversion at the main gate at 22:30. Something big, something that pulls security away from the loading docks. What kind of diversion? Use your imagination, Admiral. You've been doing this longer than I have. A pause. Then, done. Third, Catherine hesitated. I need you to trust me. I've always trusted you, Kate. No, you've trusted my skills. You've trusted my training. You've trusted my results. She took a breath. Tonight I need you to trust my judgment. Whatever happens, whatever decisions I make, I need you to believe that I'm doing what's right." Silence on the other end. When Bishop spoke again, his voice was different, softer. "Kate, what are you planning?" "Whatever it takes, Admiral. Whatever it takes to bring those people home." She ended the call. The sun was setting. In 6 hours, the darkness would come, and Captain Catherine Harrington would become what she had been trained to be: a ghost, a legend, a nightmare for anyone who stood between her and those 14 innocent lives. Chen found Drake at a bar 3 blocks from the base. The staff sergeant was nursing a beer and looking like a man who'd just been told his whole world was a lie. "Staff Sergeant?" Drake looked up. His eyes were bloodshot, not from alcohol, from something else. Something that looked like shame. "Petty Officer Chen," his voice was flat. "Come to lecture me some more. Come to buy you a drink." Chen slid onto the stool next to him. "And to tell you a story." "I'm not in the mood for stories. This one you'll want to hear." Chen signaled the bartender. 2 whiskeys. Neat. "It's about a woman who spent 29 years protecting people who never knew she existed. People who insulted her. People who dismissed her. People who told her to go die." Drake's hand tightened around his beer glass. "And it's about a man who let his anger blind him to what was right in front of his face." Chen pushed one of the whiskeys toward Drake. "A good man, actually. A veteran who served his country with honor. But somewhere along the way he forgot what that service was supposed to mean." "Is this about Harrington?" "This is about you, Staff Sergeant. About whether you're going to spend the rest of your life bitter and broken, or whether you're going to do something that matters." Drake was silent for a long moment. Then he drained his whiskey in one swallow. "What do you want from me, Chen?" "Tonight, something's happening on this base. Something I can't explain. Something that involves people being hurt. Innocent people who need someone to stand up for them. And you want me to help. I want you to stay out of the way." Chen's voice hardened. "That warehouse you were poking around. Stay away from it. The people working there, don't talk to them. For the next 12 hours, I need you to be invisible." "Why?" "Because if you don't, people will die. Good people. Innocent people." Chen leaned closer. "And possibly you, Staff Sergeant. Possibly you." Drake's face had gone pale. "What the hell is going on?" "I can't tell you. Not yet. But when it's over, if we both survive, I'll explain everything." Chen stood. "Can I trust you to stay clear?" Drake stared at him. Something shifted in his eyes. The anger that had been there for years seemed to crack, revealing something softer underneath. Something that might have been hope. "You really believe in her, don't you, the cleaning lady?" "Harrington. She's not a cleaning lady, Staff Sergeant." Chen dropped money on the bar. "She's the best of us. The best of what we're supposed to be." "And what's that one?" "Someone who protects the innocent, no matter the cost." Chen walked out of the bar without looking back. Behind him, Staff Sergeant Marcus Drake sat alone with his empty glass and his racing thoughts, and the first stirring of something he hadn't felt in a very long time, the desire to be better than he was. Catherine reached the warehouse at 2200, 1 hour until the diversion, 45 minutes until the lights went out. She had spent the afternoon preparing, memorizing patrol patterns, identifying blind spots, planning entry and exit routes. The container was exactly where Volkov had said it would be. Blue, white markings, guarded by 2 men who looked like they'd been hired more for their size than their intelligence. 14 people were inside that box. Women, children, human beings who had been reduced to cargo. Catherine thought about what they must be feeling. The fear, the despair, the helplessness of being trapped in darkness with no hope of rescue. She remembered a cell in Syria. 3 days without light, without food, without any indication that rescue would ever come. She had survived. She had been trained to survive. These people hadn't. These people were civilians who had trusted the wrong person, been in the wrong place, found themselves caught in a machine that chewed up innocence and spit out profit. They didn't know help was coming. They didn't know that a 54-year-old woman with bad knees and worse memories was about to tear apart everything that stood between them and freedom. But they would find out, soon. Catherine's phone buzzed. Westbrook. Kate, we have a problem. What kind of problem? The architect. We got a hit on his identity. Catherine's heart stopped. Who is he? Silence on the other end. Too long. James. Who is the architect? It's Admiral Pierce. Westbrook's voice was barely a whisper. Bishop. The man who recruited you. The man who sent you on this mission. He's been running the network for 15 years. The world tilted. Catherine grabbed the wall to steady herself. That's impossible. The evidence is solid. Financial records, communication intercepts, testimony from Volkov. She started talking when NCIS picked her up. Bishop is the architect. And Kate, if he knows you're onto him. He sent me here. He gave me the mission. He set you up. Westbrook's voice cracked. Don't you see this whole operation was designed to bring you out of hiding, to identify you, to capture you? For reconditioning. Catherine remembered what Volkov had said. Valuable. Repurposed. Sold. Kate, you need to abort. Get off the base. Get somewhere safe. We'll figure out another way to... No. Kate. Those people are still in that container. They're still going to be transported in 40 minutes. Whatever Bishop's game is, it doesn't change their situation. But if Bishop has assets watching, then they'll see exactly what they expect to see. A desperate rescue attempt that's doomed to fail. Catherine's mind was racing now. Adapting, adjusting, finding new angles in a situation that had just become infinitely more dangerous. But that's not what's going to happen, James. What's going to happen is I'm going to rescue those people, expose Bishop, and bring down the entire network. How? I don't know yet. Catherine checked her watch. 35 minutes. But I've got half an hour to figure it out. Kate, this is suicide. No. This is what I was trained for. This is what Ghost Reyes died for. This is what making it count actually means. She took a breath. Get NCIS to the warehouse by midnight. Have them bring overwhelming force. Bishop may have assets here, but he can't corrupt everyone. Find the good ones and bring them. And you, I'll be inside, with the victims, ready to hand them off when you arrive. And Bishop. Catherine thought about the man who had recruited her, trained her, mentored her. The man who had stood over Ghost Reyes's grave and wept alongside her. The man who had apparently been a monster all along. Bishop will face justice, one way or another. She ended the call. 33 minutes. Catherine looked at the container, at the guards, at the darkness spreading across the base like a living thing. Then she started moving. The diversion came at 22:30, right on schedule. An explosion at the main gate, non-lethal, but spectacular enough to draw every available security officer. The power failed at 22:45. 15 minutes of darkness, just as Catherine had requested. But now she knew that Bishop had arranged it, that every advantage she'd been given was actually a trap, that she was walking into an operation designed to capture her. It didn't matter. The victims were real. The danger to them was real. Whatever Bishop's game was, she couldn't let 14 innocent people pay the price. Catherine moved through the darkness like she was born in it. 29 years of training taking over, her body remembering what her conscious mind had tried to forget. 2 guards at the loading dock. She neutralized them silently, pressure points, not violence. They'd wake up in an hour with headaches, but no permanent damage. The container door was locked. Industrial padlock. She picked it in 30 seconds. The door swung open. 14 faces stared at her from the darkness. Women, children, eyes wide with terror. My name is Kate. She kept her voice low, calm. The voice of someone who had talked hostages through extractions in languages she didn't speak. I'm here to help you. You're safe now. A woman in the front spoke. Her voice trembled. They said no one was coming. They said we would disappear. They were wrong. Catherine stepped into the container. I need you to follow me. Stay quiet. Stay close. Don't look at anything except the person in front of you. Can you do that? Nods. 14 heads bobbing in the darkness. Good. We're going to walk out of here together. And when the sun comes up, you're going to be free." She led them out, one by one, into the darkness. The lights came back on at 2300 earlier than expected, earlier than Bishop had promised. Catherine was halfway across the loading area when the floodlights blazed. 14 civilians exposed. No cover, no escape, and standing in their path, flanked by 8 armed men, Admiral Jonathan Pierce, Bishop, the architect, Captain Harrington. His voice was almost sad. "I really hoped it wouldn't end this way." Catherine positioned herself between Bishop and the victims. "Let them go. This is between us. Nothing is between us except business." Bishop stepped forward. His men raised their weapons. "You're valuable, Kate. More valuable than you know. Your skills, your experience, your legendary status among operators who've heard the stories without knowing who you really are. I'm not for sale. Everyone's for sale. It's just a matter of finding the right price." Bishop gestured at the victims behind her. "Or the right leverage. You'd kill innocent people to get to me. I'd do whatever's necessary. That's what you taught me, Kate. That's what you taught all of us. Whatever it takes to complete the mission." Catherine's hand moved slowly toward the knife at her belt. Ghost's knife, the blade she'd carried for 15 years. "You're right," she said quietly. "I did teach you that, but you forgot the most important part. And what's that? The mission has to be worth completing." She moved. The knife flew from her hand, spinning, flashing in the floodlights. It buried itself in Bishop's shoulder. He screamed. His men hesitated, half a second of confusion, half a second of shock. Half a second was all Catherine needed. She was among them before they could fire. Disarming, striking, using their bodies as shields against each other. 8 men, trained, armed, professional. It took her 43 seconds. When it was over, she stood alone among unconscious bodies, breathing hard blood dripping from a cut above her eye. Bishop was on his knees, clutching his shoulder, the knife still embedded in muscle and bone. "How?" His voice was ragged. "How did you— 29 years, Admiral." Catherine walked toward him, slowly. 29 years of doing things that would give you nightmares. 29 years of surviving situations that should have killed me. Did you really think 8 men would be enough? I trained you. You started me. Ghost Riaz finished me. Catherine pulled the knife from his shoulder. The movement made him scream again. "And now I'm going to finish you." "Wait." Bishop's eyes were wild, desperate. "Wait. I can tell you things. Things about the network. Names, locations, operations you don't know about. Save it for NCIS. They'll never find everyone. The network is too big, but I can give you everything. You already gave me everything I need." Catherine looked at him with eyes that held no mercy, no compassion, nothing except the cold assessment of a predator evaluating prey. "You gave me a mission. Rescue 14 people. That's done. Everything else is just noise." Sirens in the distance, getting closer. "That'll be the cavalry." Catherine cleaned Ghost's knife on Bishop's uniform. "Try not to bleed to death before they get here." She turned to the victims. 14 faces, still terrified. But something else now too. Something that looked like hope. "You're safe now." Catherine's voice was gentler. "Really safe. The people coming will take care of you." The woman who had spoken earlier stepped forward. "Who are you?" Catherine thought about the question, thought about all the answers she could give. "I'm a ghost. I'm a legend. I'm a cleaning lady. I'm a captain. I'm a weapon. I'm broken. I'm barely human anymore." But when she spoke, she said something else. "I'm just someone who made a promise to keep." The sirens were very close now, blue and red lights flickering in the darkness. Catherine Harrington looked at the sky, at the stars she hadn't let herself see in 12 years. And somewhere in the night she could have sworn she heard Ghost Reyes laughing. The sirens died, the lights stayed, NCIS agents swarmed the loading dock like ants on a carcass. Medical personnel rushed to the victims. Military police secured the perimeter. Someone was shouting orders. Someone else was reading Bishop his rights. Catherine stood apart from it all, watching, waiting. The adrenaline was fading, leaving behind the bone-deep exhaustion that always followed violence. Her hands were shaking. She hadn't noticed until now. Hadn't noticed the blood on her knuckles or the torn skin across her forearm or the way her left knee was screaming from a movement she didn't remember making. 54 years old, 29 years of service, and her body was finally presenting the bill. "Captain Harrington." She turned. Commander Westbrook was walking toward her, his face a mixture of relief and something else. Something that looked like awe. "James, you did it," his voice cracked. 14 people, 8 hostiles neutralized, Bishop in custody, and you're still standing. Barely. That's enough. Westbrook put his hand on her shoulder, gentle, careful, like he was afraid she might shatter. That's always been enough. Catherine looked past him to where medical personnel were helping the victims into ambulances. The woman who had spoken to her, the one who had asked who she was looking back. Their eyes met across the chaos. The woman mouthed 2 words. "Thank you." Catherine nodded once, then looked away. "I need to sit down. There's a chair in the command tent, coffee, medical if you need it. Just the chair, and maybe a moment to remember how to breathe." Westbrook guided her toward the tent. His hand stayed on her shoulder the whole way. The next 6 hours were a blur of debriefings and statements and questions from people with badges and clipboards and the particular kind of intensity that came from solving a case nobody had believed was real. Catherine answered everything, gave them details, names, locations, the structure of the network as she understood it. Everything Volkov had told her before losing consciousness. She did not mention Ghost Reyes. She did not mention the promise. Some things were too sacred for official reports. At 0600, they finally let her go. Temporary quarters on base. Shower. Sleep. Check in with medical when she woke up. Catherine walked to the quarters alone. The base was quiet now, the calm after a storm that most personnel didn't even know had happened. She passed a few early risers, nodded, kept walking. Her phone buzzed. Chen. "Ma'am, are you okay?" Define okay. "Alive, functional, not bleeding out in a ditch somewhere." "Then yes, I'm okay." Catherine unlocked the door to her quarters. Small room, single bed, exactly what she needed. "Where are you?" "Outside the medical building. The victims are being processed. I wanted to make sure they were being taken care of." "And are they?" "Yes, ma'am. The woman you talked to, her name is Maria Santos. She asked about you, wanted to know if you were hurt." Catherine sat on the bed. Her body screamed with gratitude. "Tell her I'm fine. Tell her she's safe now. And tell her—" She paused, swallowed. "Tell her the person who saved her was just doing her job. Nothing special. With respect, ma'am, that's a lie. Maybe, but it's the kind of lie that helps people sleep at night." She ended the call and lay back on the bed. The ceiling stared down at her. White, blank, empty. Like her mind should have been. Instead, it was full of faces. Bishop's face twisted with pain and betrayal. Volkov's face pale with fear. The faces of the 8 men she'd put down with her bare hands. And Ghost's face. Always Ghost's face. "I did it, Danny." The words came out as a whisper. Made it count. Finally. After all these years. The tears started then. Silent. Uncontrolled. The kind of tears that came when the body finally released what the mind had been holding for too long. Catherine Harrington cried for the first time in 12 years. And when she was done, she slept. The knock came at 1400. Catherine was already awake, had been for an hour, staring at the ceiling, trying to remember how to be a person instead of a weapon. "Come in." The door opened. Staff Sergeant Marcus Drake stood in the doorway. He looked different, smaller somehow. The rage that had defined him was gone. replaced by something more complicated: shame, confusion, the particular expression of a man who had just realized he had been profoundly wrong about almost everything. Staff Sergeant. Captain, Drake hesitated. Chen told me about everything, about who you are, what you did last night. Chen talks too much. Maybe. Drake stepped inside, closed the door behind him. But I needed to hear it, needed to understand why I... He stopped, started again. Why I was such an ass to you. Catherine sat up, swung her legs over the side of the bed. Her body protested every movement, but she ignored it. You were threatened. I represented something that challenged your understanding of how the world works. It's not an excuse, but it is an explanation. It's not enough. Drake's voice cracked. I grabbed you. I threatened you. I told you to go die. His hands clenched at his sides. I told a Navy SEAL legend to go die, a woman who's done more for this country than I'll ever understand. You didn't know. That's not the point. Drake looked at her directly for the first time. His eyes were red. Not from drinking, from something else. The point is, it shouldn't have mattered. Whether you were a cleaning lady or a captain or anything else, you were a human being, and I treated you like you weren't. Catherine was quiet for a long moment. She thought about all the ways this conversation could go, the anger she could express, the condemnation she could deliver, the righteous fury she was entitled to after everything he had put her through. But she was tired of anger, had been tired of it for years, and she saw something in Drake's eyes that she recognized, the desperate need to be better than his worst moment, the hope that redemption was still possible despite everything. She had felt that same thing, after Kandahar, after Ghost. Sit down, Marcus. Drake blinked. The use of his first name seemed to throw him off balance. He sat. Let me tell you something about Ghost Reyes. Catherine's voice was soft. He was the man who trained me, believed in me when everyone else said women didn't belong in special operations. He died in my arms in Kandahar, and his last words were, "Make it count." Drake listened, silent, barely breathing. For 12 years, I didn't know what that meant. I thought it meant revenge, justice, making sure his death wasn't wasted. But that's not it. Catherine paused. What it means is this. Every day you wake up is a chance to be better than the day before. Every moment is an opportunity to choose kindness over cruelty. Every person you meet is someone who might need exactly the grace you wish someone had shown you. I don't deserve grace. Nobody deserves grace. That's what makes it grace. Catherine leaned forward. You made a mistake, Marcus, a bad one, but you're here now, owning it, looking me in the eye and telling me you were wrong. That takes courage. It takes basic decency. In my experience, basic decency is the rarest thing in the world. Catherine almost smiled. You have it. You just forgot for a while. Drake's jaw trembled. His eyes filled with tears he refused to let fall. How do I make it right? You don't. Catherine's voice was gentle. You can't unmake what happened, but you can make the next thing better, and the thing after that, and everything after that for the rest of your life. That's it. Just keep trying. That's everything, Staff Sergeant. That's the whole secret of being human. We fail. We hurt people. We make mistakes that seem unforgivable. And then we wake up the next day and try again anyway. Drake was quiet for a long time. When he spoke, his voice was barely audible. I want to be different. Then be different. I don't know how. You start by trying. Catherine stood, extended her hand. Every single day. You fail. You try again. That's it. Drake looked at her hand like it was a lifeline thrown to a drowning man. Then he took it. His grip was firm, steady. The grip of a man who had just decided to become someone new. Thank you, Captain. Don't thank me yet. Catherine released his hand. Thank me when you've done the work, when you've become someone who doesn't need to be ashamed of who they were. And if I fail, then you try again. Her eyes held his. That's what Ghost taught me. That's what I'm teaching you. The mission is never over. Not until you're dead. And sometimes, not even then. Drake nodded slowly, then turned toward the door. He stopped with his hand on the handle. Captain, the people you saved last night. The 14 victims. Maria Santos. What about her? She's been asking about you. Wants to meet the woman who pulled her out of that container. Drake looked back. I think she needs to see your face, to know you're real, that what happened wasn't just a dream. Catherine thought about this, about the woman's eyes in the darkness, about the 2 words she had mouthed across the chaos. Thank you. Tell her I'll come by the medical building, tomorrow, when she's had time to rest. I'll tell her. Drake opened the door, paused one more time. Captain Harrington, for what it's worth, I'm glad you're alive. I'm glad you were here. And I'm sorry it took almost losing everything for me to see what was right in front of me. He left. Catherine stood alone in the small room staring at the closed door. Something had shifted. In Drake. In her. In the space between them where hatred had lived, and something else was now growing. Not friendship. Not yet. But possibility. The ceremony was scheduled for 1800. Catherine didn't want it, had argued against it, had told Westbrook and Bishop's replacement and everyone else who would listen that she didn't need recognition, didn't want attention, didn't deserve medals for doing what anyone with her training would have done. They overruled her. The victims need to see justice done, Westbrook had said. They need to see the person who saved them honored. It's not about you, Kate. It's about them. About closure. So she put on the dress whites she hadn't worn in 12 years. The uniform that still fit somehow despite everything. The medals she had earned and never displayed. She looked at herself in the mirror and didn't recognize the woman staring back. Captain Catherine Harrington. Navy Cross recipient. Bronze star with V device. Purple heart twice over. She looked like someone important. She felt like a fraud. The room was smaller than she expected. No press, no cameras. Just 30 people arranged in precise rows, the 14 victims now clean and rested and wearing borrowed clothes. The NCIS agents who had processed them. Westbrook. Chen. Drake standing in the back looking uncomfortable in his dress uniform. And at the front, Admiral Rebecca Torres. Bishop's replacement. A woman in her 60s with eyes that had seen too much and a voice that carried the weight of command. Captain Catherine Harrington. Catherine stepped forward. Her legs felt like they belonged to someone else. 29 years of service to this nation. 47 confirmed combat operations in classified theaters. Multiple wounds sustained in defense of freedom. And last night the rescue of 14 civilian hostages from a trafficking network that had corrupted the very institutions meant to protect them. Torres paused. The room was silent. For extraordinary heroism and distinguished service above and beyond the call of duty, it is my honor to present you with the Navy Cross. The medal was heavy in Torres's hands. Blue ribbon, gold cross, the second highest military decoration for valor. Catherine didn't move. Captain. She looked at the medal, at Torres, at the faces of the people she had saved. Then she spoke. Admiral Torres, I appreciate the gesture, but I can't accept this. Murmurs rippled through the room. Captain, this award has been approved at the highest levels. I don't mean I'm refusing it. Catherine's voice was steady. I mean I can't keep it, not for myself. She took the medal from Torres's hands, felt its weight, remembered every operation, every mission, every moment that had led to this. Then she walked to the back of the room, to where Chen stood, rigid with surprise. Petty Officer Chen. Catherine pressed the medal into his hands. This belongs to the future, to you, to everyone who will come after me. I'm done collecting hardware for things I did in the darkness. What matters now is what happens in the light. Chen stared at her. His mouth opened, closed, opened again. Ma'am, I can't. You can, and you will. Catherine turned to face the room. The people in this room, the survivors, the agents, the soldiers, you're the ones who matter. Not medals, not ceremonies. You. She looked at Maria Santos, the woman who had asked who she was. I told you I was just someone who made a promise. That's still true. But the promise isn't finished. It's never finished. Every day I wake up is another chance to keep it. And every one of you is part of that promise now. The room was absolutely silent. Then Maria Santos stood. She walked toward Catherine, slowly, deliberately, her eyes never leaving Catherine's face. When she was close enough to touch, she stopped. You saved my daughter. Maria's voice trembled. She's 11 years old. She was in that container with me. She saw things no child should ever see, and you pulled us out. Both of us. I was just... No. Maria grabbed Catherine's hands, held them tight. Don't. Don't say you were just doing your job. Don't say anyone would have done it. Don't minimize what you did for us. I don't know how to be anything else. Then let me show you. Maria's eyes were filling with tears. Let me show you what you are to us. You're not just a soldier. You're not just a captain. You're the reason my daughter will grow up. The reason she'll go to school and fall in love and have children of her own someday. You're the reason I get to watch all of that happen. Catherine's throat closed, her vision blurred. That's what you are, Maria continued. You're our future. You gave it back to us, and we're never going to forget. The applause started slowly. One person, then another, then the whole room. Catherine stood in the middle of it, Maria's hands still holding hers, tears streaming down her face. She had spent 29 years learning to kill. It turned out that saving lives felt different, better, like maybe Ghost had been right all along. After the ceremony, after the handshakes and the photographs and the awkward small talk that always followed emotional moments, Catherine found herself alone on the base overlook. The Pacific Ocean stretched to the horizon. The sun was setting. The sky was on fire with colors that had no names. Footsteps behind her. She didn't turn. Beautiful view. Westbrook's voice, quiet, respectful. I've seen it 1,000 times. Never really looked at it until now. He came to stand beside her. Two old warriors watching the day end. What happens next? Catherine asked. For the network, NCIS is rolling up cells across 3 continents. Bishop's cooperation, limited as it is, has given them enough to make cases against dozens of people. The whole operation is collapsing. And for the victims, Maria and her daughter are being relocated. New identities, fresh start. Same for the others who want it. Westbrook paused. You gave them their lives back, Kate. I gave them a chance. What they do with it is up to them. That's more than most people ever get. Catherine was quiet for a long moment. The sun continued its descent. I never asked you something, James. What's that? When Bishop recruited you to help me, did you know about what he really was? Westbrook's face hardened. No, I didn't know. I worked with him for 15 years, trusted him, believed in him, and he was a monster the whole time. How do you handle that? I don't. Not well, anyway. Westbrook turned to face her. But I remind myself that his evil doesn't negate my service. The good I did was still good, even if the man above me was corrupt. The lives I saved are still saved. Catherine nodded slowly. Is that enough? Some days. Westbrook's voice dropped. Other days I drink too much and wonder if any of it mattered. But then I remember something Ghost Reyes used to say. Catherine's heart clenched. You knew Ghost. Everyone knew Ghost. At least everyone in the community. Westbrook almost smiled. He used to say that the darkness doesn't win by making you evil. It wins by making you tired. By convincing you that nothing matters, that the fight is pointless. And what's the answer? The answer is to keep fighting anyway. Not because you're sure you'll win, but because fighting is the only thing that keeps the darkness from becoming everything. Catherine thought about this. about Ghost, about the promise, about 29 years of fighting a war that would never truly end. I'm tired, James. I know. So tired I can barely remember what it felt like to not be tired. I know that too. How do I keep going? Westbrook was quiet for a long time. When he spoke, his voice was gentle. You find something worth staying awake for, something that matters more than the exhaustion. For Ghost, it was training the next generation. For me, it's making sure his legacy survives. He looked at her. What is it for you? Catherine thought about the question, about all the possible answers. Then she thought about Chen, about his determination, his idealism, his willingness to risk everything for people he'd never met. She thought about Drake, about his shame, his desire to change, his desperate hope for redemption. She thought about Maria Santos and her 11-year-old daughter, about the future that now stretched ahead of them like an open road. Maybe, Catherine said slowly, maybe it's them, the ones who come next, the ones who need to learn what Ghost taught me. Then teach them. I don't know if I can. You already did. Westbrook gestured toward the base below. Chen is in there right now telling anyone who will listen about what you did last night, how you moved, how you thought, what you taught him just by being who you are. Drake is in the chapel probably for the first time in years, trying to figure out how to become the man you told him he could be. Catherine stared at him. I didn't. You did. Without trying. Without realizing. That's what makes you a teacher, Kate. Not lessons and lectures. Just being yourself. Showing them what's possible. The sun touched the horizon, orange and gold and red bleeding across the water like liquid fire. Ghost would be proud of you, Westbrook said quietly. Catherine felt the tears threatening again. Fought them back. I hope so. I know so. Westbrook put his hand on her shoulder. Because I'm proud of you. And Ghost and I always agreed on the important things. He squeezed once, then walked away. Catherine stood alone on the overlook, watching the sun disappear, feeling something shift inside her. For 12 years, she had been running from who she was. Maybe it was time to stop running. Maybe it was time to become something new. Her hand moved unconsciously to the scar below her ribs, the old wound that never quite healed. I'm still here, Danny, she whispered to the fading light. Still trying, still making it count. The stars were coming out now, thousands of them, millions, more than anyone could ever count. Catherine looked up at them and felt for the first time in years something that might have been peace. 6 months passed like water through open fingers. Catherine stood at the window of her new office watching the morning fog roll across the training grounds. 20 candidates were assembling below. The first class of the Special Warfare Legacy Program. Men and women selected for their potential, their determination, their willingness to be pushed beyond what they thought possible. They didn't know what was coming. They didn't know who was about to walk into that classroom and change everything they believed about themselves. A knock at the door. Enter. Chen stepped inside. He was different now. Harder, more focused. The 6 months since that night at the warehouse had carved away whatever softness remained, leaving behind something that looked remarkably like the operators Catherine had served with decades ago. Class is assembled, Captain. Don't call me Captain. Catherine turned from the window. In this program, I'm just Instructor Harrington. No rank, no history, just the work. Yes, ma'am. Chen hesitated. There's something else. What? Drake is here. Catherine's eyebrows rose. I thought he was assigned to Camp Pendleton. He requested transfer. Came through this morning. Chen's expression was carefully neutral. He wants to observe the program. Says he has something to learn. Catherine processed this. 6 months ago, Marcus Drake had been a drunk, angry man who told her to die. Now, he was standing on her doorstep asking to learn from her. Ghost would have laughed at the irony. Send him in. Chen nodded and left. A moment later, Drake appeared in the doorway. He looked different too. Thinner, sharper, The rage that had defined him was gone, replaced by something that looked almost like humility. Staff Sergeant. Captain. Drake caught himself. Sorry, Instructor Harrington. What do you want, Marcus? Drake stepped inside, closed the door. His movements were careful, deliberate, the movements of a man who had learned that careless actions had consequences. I want to be part of this program. As what? You're not a candidate. You're too old, too experienced, too set in your ways. As an observer, a student, whatever you'll allow. Drake's voice cracked slightly. I spent 20 years thinking I knew what strength looked like. Volume, aggression, dominance. You showed me I was wrong about all of it. I showed you nothing. You showed yourself. Maybe. But I need to understand more. Need to learn what you know. Not the fighting, I've got that. The other stuff. The quiet competence, the patience. The ability to look at someone who hates you and see their potential instead of their hatred. Catherine studied him, saw the desperation beneath the request, the genuine hunger to become something better than what he had been. You realize what you're asking. To sit in a room and watch me teach things you thought you already knew. To accept that a woman you tried to intimidate has skills you don't. To swallow your pride every single day until there's nothing left but willingness to learn. Yes. And you're prepared for that. I don't know. Drake's honesty was startling. I know I want to try. I know I can't keep being who I was. And I know that if anyone can teach me how to change, it's you. Catherine was quiet for a long moment. Then she made a decision. There's an empty chair in the back of the classroom. You can observe, but you don't speak. You don't question. You don't interfere. If I ask you to leave, you leave. If I tell you you're not ready for something, you accept it without argument. Clear. Crystal clear. Good. Catherine moved toward the door. Class starts in 5 minutes. Don't be late. She walked past him without another word. Behind her, she heard Drake exhale a long, shaky breath of relief. It wasn't forgiveness. It wasn't trust. But it was a door cracked open just enough for light to come through. The classroom was smaller than Catherine had expected. 20 chairs arranged in a semicircle. 20 faces looking up at her with expressions ranging from curiosity to skepticism to barely concealed fear. She stood at the front, silent, letting them look. Some of them shifted uncomfortably. Others tried to stare her down. One woman in the front row, Lieutenant Commander Sarah Mitchell, submarine officer, top of her class at the Naval Academy, met Catherine's gaze with calm confidence. That one would either be her best student or her biggest problem. My name is Catherine Harrington. Her voice filled the room without effort. 29 years of command presence impossible to fake. I'm not going to tell you war stories. I'm not going to pretend what I've done makes me special. She paused. Let the silence build. What makes anyone special is what you do when everything goes wrong, when the plan fails, when someone's bleeding, when you're scared and exhausted and you still have 10 kilometers to go. The candidates were absolutely still now, listening, really listening. I had a mentor, Master Chief Daniel Reyes. We called him Ghost. He died in Afghanistan in 2009. Last thing he told me was, make it count. I spent years trying to understand what that meant. Catherine's voice softened. Just slightly, just enough. Now I know. It means teaching you everything he taught me. So when you face your worst day, you have one more technique than you need. You bring everyone home. That's making it count. She looked at each face individually, memorizing them, learning them. This program isn't about making you like me. It's about making you better than me, learning from my mistakes without having to make them yourselves. Her gaze hardened. Anyone not interested in that level of honesty, there's the door. Nobody moved. Good, let's begin. The first week was brutal. Catherine pushed them harder than any of them had been pushed before. Physical conditioning that made their previous training look like vacation. Technical skills drilled until they could execute them in their sleep. Decision-making scenarios that had no right answers, only degrees of wrong. 3 candidates dropped out by day 4. Catherine expected that. Ghost had taught her that the first week separated those who wanted to succeed from those who needed to succeed. Wanting wasn't enough. Need drove you through the pain. Need kept you going when everything in your body screamed for you to stop. Chen served as her assistant instructor, running the physical training blocks, demonstrating techniques, translating Catherine's cryptic observations into practical guidance. He was good at it, better than she had expected. On the 5th night, she found him alone in the training facility practicing combat sequences on a heavy bag that had seen better days. "You should be sleeping." Chen didn't stop. His fists continued their rhythm against the bag. "Can't sleep. Too wired. That's not sustainable." "Neither is what you're asking of them." Chen finally paused, turned to face her. "You're pushing them harder than any program I've ever seen. Harder than Hell Week. Harder than anything." "That's the point." "What is the point exactly? Breaking them? Showing them what they're capable of?" Catherine walked closer. Most people never discover their limits because they never get pushed far enough to find them. They coast through life thinking they know what they can do, and then one day they face something that tests them, really tests them, and they fail. Not everyone can be you. "I'm not trying to make them me," Catherine's voice sharpened. "I'm trying to make them ready. Ready for the moment when everything falls apart and they're the only thing standing between disaster and survival. Ready to make decisions that will haunt them forever. Ready to carry the weight of lives that depend on their competence." Chen was quiet for a moment. "Is that what Ghost did for you?" The question hit Catherine like a punch to the chest. "Ghost." She paused, gathered herself. "Ghost showed me that fear is just information, that pain is just data, that every limit you think you have is a story you tell yourself until reality proves otherwise." "And what reality proved otherwise for you?" Catherine thought about Kandahar, about the L-shaped ambush and the blood and the weight of Ghost's body as she dragged him toward cover that didn't exist. The reality that I could either die in that moment or become something that didn't know how to die. I chose the second option, and I've been living with that choice ever since. Chen absorbed this. "Do you regret it?" "Every day." Catherine's voice was barely a whisper. "And I'd make the same choice again, every time." She turned and walked out of the training facility. Behind her, Chen stood alone with questions he knew better than to ask. Week 2 brought the first major test, a navigation exercise in the mountains. 48 hours of continuous movement through terrain that punished every mistake. No sleep, limited food, environmental conditions that changed from brutal to deadly with no warning. Catherine ran the exercise from a command post, tracking each candidate's movements through GPS and radio check-ins. Chen was in the field with them, observing, ready to intervene if something went truly wrong. By hour 32 more candidates had withdrawn. Injuries, exhaustion, the particular kind of mental break that came when your body ran out of resources and your mind had nothing left to draw on. Lieutenant Commander Mitchell was still moving. Catherine watched her transponder blip across the map. Steady pace, efficient route selection, no wasted energy. The woman moved through the mountains like she'd been born in them. Impressive. Too impressive. Catherine keyed her radio. "Chen, report on Mitchell." Static. Then Chen's voice. "She's strong. Maybe the strongest I've seen. But there's something else." "What?" "She's not helping anyone. The other candidates are struggling and she's just moving, like they don't exist." Catherine processed this. "Keep watching. Report any changes." "Copy that." The radio went silent. Catherine thought about what Chen had said. Mitchell was strong, capable, possibly the most technically gifted candidate in the program. But strength without compassion was just brutality. Capability without care was just efficiency. And efficiency didn't bring people home. Ghost had taught her that, had shown her through example after example that the best operators weren't the ones who could move fastest or shoot straightest. They were the ones who understood that every mission was about people. The people you protected, the people you served with, the people waiting at home for you to return. Mitchell would need to learn that lesson, or she would wash out. Hour 40 brought the crisis. A candidate named Torres Young, eager trying too hard to prove himself, had slipped on a loose rock and fallen into a ravine. Broken leg, possible internal bleeding. No way to move on his own. The radio traffic was frantic. Other candidates trying to reach him. Chen coordinating response. Everyone scrambling. Everyone except Mitchell. Chen, where's Mitchell? Still moving, ma'am. She's less than a kilometer from Torres's position, but she's heading away, continuing toward the objective. Catherine's jaw tightened. Patch me through to her. Static. Then Mitchell's voice steady and controlled. Mitchell here. Lieutenant Commander, there's a candidate down less than a kilometer from your position. What are you doing? Continuing the mission, instructor. The objective is the priority. The mission is bringing everyone home. With respect, ma'am, the mission is completing the navigation exercise. Torres's injury is unfortunate, but there are other candidates closer to his position. My assistance isn't required. Catherine felt something cold settle into her chest. Lieutenant Commander Mitchell, you are ordered to render assistance to candidate Torres immediately. Silence on the radio. Do you copy Mitchell? I copy. Mitchell's voice was flat, mechanical. But for the record, I disagree with this decision. We don't win wars by stopping every time someone falls. We don't win anything by leaving our people behind. Catherine's voice could have frozen steel. Move, now. The radio went dead. Catherine watched Mitchell's transponder change direction, heading toward Torres, following orders. But the damage was done. Mitchell had revealed something about herself, something that would need to be addressed, something that reminded Catherine uncomfortably of herself 30 years ago, before Ghost had taught her what really mattered. Torres was evacuated. Broken leg, 2 cracked ribs, no internal bleeding. He'd recover. He'd return to training in 8 weeks. Mitchell completed the navigation exercise, first across the finish line by a significant margin. Her technical performance was flawless. Catherine called her into her office the next morning. Close the door. Mitchell obeyed. Her posture was perfect. Her face showed nothing. Do you know why you're here? I assume it's about the Torres situation. It's about what the Torres situation revealed. Catherine leaned forward. You're the most capable candidate in this program. Your scores are exceptional. Your physical performance is outstanding. On paper, you're exactly what we're looking for. Mitchell's expression flickered, almost smiled. But paper doesn't bleed. Catherine's voice hardened. Paper doesn't cry out when it's hurt. Paper doesn't have families waiting at home. Paper doesn't need someone to carry it when it can't walk on its own. I was following the mission parameters. You were following your interpretation of the mission parameters, which prioritized completion over people. Catherine stood, walked around the desk, stopped directly in front of Mitchell. Let me tell you something, Lieutenant Commander. I was you once. Faster, stronger, more technically capable than anyone around me. I thought that made me special. Thought it made me valuable. Mitchell's perfect posture stiffened. Then I watched the person who believed in me die in my arms because I wasn't fast enough to save him. And I learned something that day. Something that changed everything I thought I knew about what it means to serve. What was that? That the mission is never the mission. Catherine's eyes locked onto Mitchell's. The mission is the people. Always. Everything else, the objectives, the tactics, the technical excellence, that's just how you serve the people. If you forget that if you start treating people as obstacles or inconveniences or acceptable losses, you become something worse than ineffective. You become dangerous. Mitchell was silent. Her jaw worked. Her eyes showed the first crack in that perfect facade. I didn't leave Torres to die. No. You left him to be someone else's problem. And in the field, that distinction doesn't matter. When you're the closest, you're responsible. When you can help, you help. When someone needs you, you answer. That's not weakness. That's not inefficiency. That's what separates warriors from killers. Mitchell's voice dropped, almost broke. I was taught that emotion compromises effectiveness. You were taught wrong. Catherine stepped back, gave Mitchell room to breathe. Emotion doesn't compromise effectiveness. Uncontrolled emotion does. But compassion, loyalty, the willingness to sacrifice for your teammates, those aren't emotions. Those are the foundation of everything we do. Then why does it feel like weakness? Because you've been fighting alone. Catherine's voice gentled. Because no one taught you that strength includes vulnerability. That the hardest thing a warrior can do isn't kill, it's keep caring when caring hurts. Mitchell's perfect facade cracked completely. I don't know how to do that. That's why you're here. Catherine reached out, put her hand on Mitchell's shoulder. That's why this program exists. Not to make you harder, to make you complete, to teach you that the answer to who do you serve isn't the mission or the Navy or even the country. It's the person standing next to you, always. Mitchell's eyes filled with tears she refused to let fall. Can I learn that after everything I've been? I did. Catherine squeezed her shoulder once, then let go. Ghost Ray has taught me. Now I'm teaching you. It's not easy, it's not quick, but it's possible. And when you figure it out, you'll understand why it matters more than anything else you've ever learned. Mitchell nodded slowly. The walls were coming down. Not all at once, but piece by piece. Yes, ma'am. Good. Now get back to training. And next time someone needs help, don't calculate whether it's efficient. Just help. Mitchell left. The door closed behind her. Catherine stood alone in her office, feeling the weight of the conversation settle into her bones. This was the work, not the fighting, not the tactics. This reaching into someone's soul and showing them a better version of themselves. This was what Ghost had done for her. This was making it count. 3 months later, the first class graduated. 17 candidates remained from the original 20, each one transformed. Harder in some ways, softer in others. Capable of things they couldn't have imagined when they walked through the door. Mitchell stood at the front of the formation. Not because she was the best, though she was, but because she had changed the most. The woman who couldn't stop for a fallen teammate now led team exercises with a patience that amazed everyone who had known her before. Catherine addressed them one final time. When you walked in here, you were individuals, talented, driven, capable, but alone. Her voice carried across the formation. Now, you're something more. You're a chain, each link connected to the next, each link responsible for the strength of the whole. She looked at each face, remembered their struggles, their breakthroughs, their moments of failure and triumph. The world will test you. It will try to break you. It will throw everything it has at you and demand that you choose between your mission and your people. She paused. When that moment comes, and it will come, remember what you learned here. The mission is the people, always. The formation was silent. 17 hearts beating as one. Dismissed. They dispersed, hugging each other, laughing, crying. The particular kind of joy that came from surviving something together. Chen found Catherine at the edge of the crowd. You did it. We did it. Catherine watched her graduates celebrate. I couldn't have done this without you. I just followed orders. No. She turned to face him. You believed. When I didn't. When I wasn't sure any of this would work. You believed enough for both of us. Chen was quiet for a moment. Ghost would be proud. Catherine felt the tears threatening. Let them come. I hope so. I know so. Chen reached into his pocket, pulled out the Navy Cross she had given him 6 months ago. This belongs to you. I told you. I know what you told me. Chen pressed the medal into her hand. But I've learned something since then. You can't give away what you earned. You can only add to it. This medal isn't just yours anymore. It's ours. Everyone you've taught. Everyone you've saved. Everyone who carries what you've given them into the future. Catherine looked at the medal, felt its weight differently now. Then we'll keep it together. Together. Chen smiled. I like that. Drake approached them as the crowd thinned. 3 months of observation had changed him as much as the candidates. The anger was gone. The defensiveness was gone. What remained was something that looked almost like peace. Instructor. He still stumbled over the words. I wanted to thank you. For what? For letting me watch. For showing me what leadership actually looks like. For not giving up on someone who didn't deserve a second chance. Catherine studied him. Everyone deserves a second chance, Marcus. It's what you do with it that matters. I know that now. Drake straightened. I've requested reassignment to the instructor cadre. Want to help build the next class, if you'll have me. Catherine looked at Chen. Chen nodded almost imperceptibly. We'll discuss it, Catherine said. But I'm not opposed. Drake's face broke into a genuine smile, the first she'd ever seen from him. Thank you, ma'am. You won't regret it. He walked away with lighter steps than Catherine had ever seen him take. Chen watched him go. You trust him. I trust what he's becoming. Catherine pocketed the Navy Cross. That's enough for now. That night, Catherine sat alone in her office. The graduates were gone. Chen was sleeping. Drake was probably praying again. The base was quiet in that particular way that only happened after something significant ended. On her desk sat the photograph she had kept hidden for so long. Ghost Reyes and the team. Everyone alive in that moment. Half of them gone now. She picked it up, studied the faces, remembered the voices, the laughter. The way Ghost would tell terrible jokes at the worst possible moments just to keep everyone's spirits up. I did it, Danny. Her voice was barely a whisper. Built something that matters. Taught them what you taught me. Quiet professionalism. Technical excellence. Bringing everyone home. The photograph didn't answer, but Catherine could have sworn Ghost's smile seemed a little wider than before. She touched the glass, let her fingers trace the outline of his face. I'm still making it count. Every single day. Every student who walks through that door. Every life they'll save because of what they learned here. A knock at the door. Soft. Hesitant. Come in. Maria Santos stepped inside, the woman from the container, the mother whose daughter Catherine had saved. Mrs. Santos. Catherine stood. I didn't expect... How did you get on base? Commander Westbrook arranged it. I wanted to see you. To thank you properly. Maria's eyes were bright with tears. My daughter Sophia. She's starting school next week. Regular school. With other children. Something I never thought I'd see. Catherine's throat tightened. That's wonderful. It's because of you. Maria stepped closer. She asked me to give you something. She held out a piece of paper. A child's drawing. Crayon on construction paper. A woman with brown hair standing in front of a sunrise holding the hand of a smaller figure. Underneath, in shaky letters, thank you for saving us. You are my hero. Love, Sophia. Catherine took the drawing. Her hands trembled. She wanted you to know, Maria continued, that she's not scared anymore, because she knows there are people like you in the world, people who fight the monsters. Catherine couldn't speak. The tears were falling now, no way to stop them. Maria reached out, took Catherine's hand. I don't know everything you've done, everything you've lost. But I know this, whatever pain brought you here, whatever darkness you had to walk through, it led to my daughter being alive. It led to 14 families being whole again. It led to all of us having a future. I was just doing my job. No, Maria's grip tightened. You were being who you are, and who you are saved us. Never forget that. Never let anyone tell you it wasn't enough. She released Catherine's hand, stepped back. Sophia wants to meet you someday. When she's older? When she can understand what you did for her? Will you remember us? Catherine looked at the drawing, at the crude figure holding a child's hand in front of a sunrise. Always. Maria smiled, then turned and walked out. Catherine stood alone in her office holding a child's drawing, tears streaming down her face. She thought about Ghost, about his last words, about all the years she had spent trying to understand what making it count really meant. She understood now. It meant this moment, this drawing, this child who would grow up because Catherine Harrington had refused to let the darkness win. It meant the 17 graduates who would carry what she taught them into the future. It meant Drake finding redemption, Chen finding purpose, Mitchell finding her heart. It meant that every morning when Catherine woke up, someone somewhere was alive because of choices she had made. She walked to the window. The sun was rising over the Pacific. The sky was streaked with gold and pink and the particular kind of blue that only appeared at dawn. I finally understand Danny. She spoke to the sunrise, to the memory, to the man who had believed in her when no one else did. It was never about the missions, never about the medals, never about proving anything to anyone. Her hand moved to the scar below her ribs, the old wound that had never quite healed. It was about what we leave behind, the people we change, the lives we save, the hope we give to those who have none. She thought about the cleaning lady who had walked through these halls for 4 years, invisible, forgotten, waiting for something worth coming back for. That woman was gone now. In her place stood someone else, someone stronger, someone complete. Captain Catherine Harrington. Ghost. Legend. Teacher. Survivor. She placed Sophia's drawing on her desk next to the photograph of Ghost Reyes. 2 images side by side, the past and the future, the debt and the payment. The door opened behind her, Chen's voice gentle but insistent. "Ma'am, the new candidates are arriving, 23 this time. Admiral Torres is asking for you." Catherine took one last look at the sunrise. Then she turned. "Let's get to work." She walked out of her office with her head high and her heart full and the certain knowledge that whatever came next, she was ready. Because Captain Catherine Harrington had finally learned the truth that Ghost Reyes had died trying to teach her. The darkness never wins. Not when there are people willing to carry the light. And she would carry it until her last breath, passing it from hand to hand, generation to generation, until the whole world burned bright with the fire that had been lit in a blood-soaked field in Kandahar by a man who believed in her. She would make it count. She already had, and she was only just beginning.